Hi, I'm Chris from Development. Let's take a quick look at how we use the update method of the users module. And let's see, so that would be under the client module in users. There is this update method, and this allows you to update certain parameters of the user's object that has been registered in the system. The basics are taking the user ID and then also passing an update table with the different parameters that you want to update. And there is a specific set of attributes that you can update. You can work with the username, password, whether the user's active, and you can also edit and add items to the extra table, which is basically their metadata that you can attach to a registered user, which was demonstrated in the create user screencast. So the first thing you want to do is you're going to need to get a handle of a user's ID. So you're going to want to log that user in. And in the previous screencasts we've been using a user named Dan, and so he already has his extra metadata table here with a color and a score, and he's been confirmed and activated, etc. And what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and log him in. So we'll go into our demo project and do a core.users login, and we need to give the username, which in this case is Dan, and then the password, and his password is cookies. And then we need to add our onResponse handler. So we'll jump over into Corona and do a refresh here, and we get our result here for our login. And we're going to go ahead and just grab his user ID here so we can use that for the update method. So from here, now if we want to change some certain attributes of this user that we have registered, we can use the update method, and that's core users update. And this takes a user ID, which we just got from our logging in, and then also an update table. And in the update table is where we can pass the different attributes that we want to update. So let's say we want to change this user's password. We can just use update password, and then we can change cookies to something like tacos, and then we'll do an onResponse. And when we use the update method, once it does its work, it's going to give us back the updated record. So now we have the response here is basically Dan's record here. Now the password is never brought back in this record, but the password has been updated, and we can go ahead and do a test by logging the user in once again. So we'll do a core.users login, and we need the username, and then we'll go ahead and use his old password just to make sure. I'm sorry, his old password was cookies. And we'll add an onResponse to that and see what we get back. So once we do this, we see that there is no user found with those credentials, and we get a status of 404. So that means that password is not working. So we can go ahead and change it to Dan's new password and see if we can log him in, and sure enough we get the login record here. So that is how we can change the password. If you wanted to change a username, let's say that Dan no longer wants to be Dan, we can go into our update method here, and instead of the password we can go ahead and say let's update the username. Now if you try to update a username that already exists, you're going to get a response back telling you so. So let's just go ahead and try to update username Dan, and it's going to tell you that the username already exists and give you a status of 1062, and you can use this status code to present some error messages or deal with that however you need to deal with it. But if we do want to change it to something else, we'll just go ahead and change Dan to Tom and do a refresh on that, and then we'll get that new record, the updated record. You can see his username is now Tom, but all of his other data stays the same. So we can see that here in our users in our webmin, he is now Tom. Now if we want to start working with the other aspect that we can change is we can change the user's email if you want to, and that you just pass the email. So we'll just put tom@home.com, and you can update many things at the same time, so you don't have to do this one at a time. If you wanted to update the password and the email at the same time, then you just pass those parameters together. And then we can go ahead and do this, and we can see that we have Tom has been updated, and again we get the updated record returned back to us in our result, in our response here. Now if we want to work with the extra metadata, and that's this data here that we can attach to a registered user, we can go ahead and still use this update table, but then we're going to be using an extra table as well. And currently in there we have a score and a color, so we can go ahead and say if we wanted to update the color to something like red, we can do that. And again we'll get the updated record back, and you can see now the color has been changed to red. We can see that in our webmin as well. If you wanted to take something and let's say add an additional new field, let's say we'll add a new field called age, and then we're also going to update this to green. We can do that at the same time, and once we do that we'll get the updated record back, and you can see now we have a new parameter to the extra table as well as an updated color. And again, this is explained in the creation user create video, but the extra table is always a one-dimensional table, and there can be no tables inside this table, and the only values that you can add in here are strings and numbers. So if we have these keys like we have now here, you can see that we have a score key, we have a color and an age, and let's say we no longer need one of these keys in our extras table anymore. Let's say for instance we don't want to track the score any longer, and we don't need to store it in our table here. We can do that by passing a specific constant to this extra table. And so in the documentation under constants here there's this null, and what this is core.users.null, and when you pass this constant to one of the keys in the extra table, it's going to go ahead and remove that key altogether. So we'll go ahead and utilize that to remove the score key from this extra table. So let's just go ahead and pull these out here. So we have the score, but then we're going to use core.users.null. And again, what this will do is this is going to remove this key from this extra table. So we'll go ahead and save that and do a refresh. As you can see now, that score key no longer exists, and that's because we've passed this null to it. And again, that's reflected in the webmin as well. You can do multiple things at the same time. So if we wanted to, let's say, remove the age key, we'll take the age key, we'll remove that. We want to update the color key to be purple. And we also want to add a key. In this instance we'll just add the score back in. You can do all these at the same time, and it'll go ahead and take care of those for you. So once we update that, we see we have the color purple there and a score of 2300, and then the age key has been removed. The one other attribute that you can update in a record for a user is the active. And this basically, in this case here, we can see that this user is activated. If you want to deactivate a user, you can do that by clicking deactivate, which will put them in a different state. Under users now, they're in the inactive table. And if we try to log them in, we'll get a message telling us that this user is not active. So that if a user is either you don't want to erase this specific user, or perhaps they're causing problems, you can put them in that inactive state. So we'll go ahead, and he is currently inactive. So if we wanted to change the active state, we can pass that parameter, and we'll say let's go ahead and make Dan active again, so we can in the update table pass active, and we'll go ahead and do a refresh on that. And as you can see here, he's been changed to an active state. And then if we go back over here into our webmin, we can see that he's been moved back over here into our active users. So that covers how you can update certain attributes. Those are the main ones that you can update. You can't really change a lot of these other ones because they're preset when the user is actually registered. But that covers how you can change their active status, their email, their password, their username, as well as work with their extra metadata table. So that pretty much covers it for how we use the core.users.update method. Thanks for watching.